Special Counsel Herr, thank you for a number of things. First, thank you for agreeing to testify today. Second, thank you also for sharing your family's story at the beginning of your testimony. It is an extraordinary story of them coming to America. Third, let me also thank you for your in-depth investigation and your detailed report, and generally for your service as special counsel. It's not something that I think many people would look for, and certainly comes with a lot of burden, so thank you for your work. In your opening statement, you described your investigation as, quote, thorough and independent, and I agree with that. One where you attempted to give, quote, rigorous and detailed analysis. I also agree with that. And one where you say you, quote, must show your work, which we very much appreciate today. We don't normally see that. Did I recall your opening statement correctly as it relates to those quotes?
Yes, sir, you do.
In fact, as part of your investigation, you interviewed about 150 different witnesses. You looked at millions of different documents because you wanted to do a thorough investigation. Isn't that true?
Correct.
And you did this because you took your investigation extremely seriously and you wanted to reach accurate conclusions, correct?
Very much.
Then let's review some of your specific findings regarding the issues pertaining to competency and mental capacity of President Biden. Because as you say, this is very important to whether or not there was criminal willful intent. As you can see, I've set forth a number of different quotes up here on this board that I've prepared, some of which I'll read to you. Page 5, you say Mr. Biden's, quote, Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited. Then again on page 6, you say Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Then on page 207, you say Mr. Biden's memory also appeared to have significant limitations. And then again on page 208, he did not remember when he was vice president, and he did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died. You finally make the statement on page 248, quote, for these jurors, Mr. Biden's apparent lapses and failures in February and April 2017 will likely appear consistent with the diminished capacities and faulty memory he showed. Those were astounding conclusions to me, and as I look through those quotes, I have to say I hearken back to my time before Congress. I was a judge, and one of the things that I oversaw was guardianships. And frankly, when I read your conclusions, red flags began to go up in my mind because I oversaw hundreds of guardianships back in Texas. And as I saw your conclusions, I began to wonder, what does the D.C. statute say about guardianships, and how do you define an incapacitated individual in Washington, D.C.? And I want to show you this statute because I presume, are you familiar with the statute at all?
I am not, Congressman.
So I didn't think that you'd probably reviewed that. So let me just read to you some of these, some of the definitions here. An adult whose ability to receive and evaluate information effectively or to communicate decisions is impaired to such an extent that he or she lacks the capacity to manage all or some of his financial resources. That's the first part of the definition of incapacity, an incapacitated individual under the guardianship statute in the District of Columbia. And quite frankly, I see tons of overlap from what you set forth in your testimony, in your written report, and the definition here. The phrases are almost identical. I would posit that if he cannot manage national top secret resources, I'm not sure how he can manage his personal financial resources. And given your report's findings that his memory was, quote, significantly limited, and that he is a person with, quote, diminished faculties, and with, quote, faulty memory, it makes me wonder how close he is coming to meeting this definition of an incapacitated individual, such that he should have a guardian appointed by the D.C. courts for his personhood. There is at least, I believe, a prima facie argument to say that there is substantial evidence to indicate such. And you mentioned it's not just what you've written in the report, but it was the demeanor of President Biden as you interviewed him. I'll say in conclusion, whether he does or does not meet this definition, I believe your findings raise significant concerns about his current fitness for the office of the president, and certainly his fitness going forward in the future. And I appreciate the fact that you were brazen enough to raise this issue in this report because you knew this would be significant in your findings, but you did so based on a very significant, very detailed, very thorough, independent report, and I praise you for that, doing your duty in such a way. Thank you, Special Counsel. I yield back.